You may have never noticed this, but if you listen to the Gold Experience on streaming, it does not have the most beautiful girl in the world. Hey, it's Russ from the Infectious Groove Podcast, one of the three people you hear every week. You're always hearing me, Michelle, and Kyle, and we are always talking about tons of different music and whatnot. And if you've watched this video series and you've seen a little bit about this basement, you've seen a little bit about some of the rare pressings we have, and today is no exception. I'm going to talk about what I think is probably the most rare Prince record that I own. I'm aware that there is the Black Album and a couple of other Prince records out there that are very, very rare. I do not own the Black Album. I do not have $10,000 to buy the Black Album, and I'm going to wait for the reissue that I'm sure is coming one day to own the Black Album. So we're not here to talk about that today, but we are going to talk about what I believe is the most rare pressing that I own. And if you are a Prince fan, you're probably already excited just seeing this. This is an original pressing of the Gold Experience. Now, this is special for a couple of reasons. Now, one thing I want to roll back on is there are more rare pressings of this than I own. I have a standard black pressing of this. We'll get into that in a little bit. There are ones pressed on gold vinyl. And unfortunately, with this record, there is a massive bootleg market out there. So you can find, unfortunately, many copies of this record claiming to be real, claiming to be original, and they're fairly easy to spot. So please watch out for that if you're on the secondary market. Now, there have been, since we unfortunately lost Prince, a lot of reissues from Warner Brothers Records, and they were deals that Prince had in place before he passed, which is nice because then it's not just a cash grab situation. That has allowed for a lot of the Prince collectors to get things that maybe we never had before. Emancipation was never on vinyl before. The One Night Alone box set was never on vinyl before. Those have all come out. But if you've noticed, among the amazing releases that have happened, like the 1999 special edition box set, the Sign of the Times special edition box set, one thing that is a massive part of Prince's catalog that's been overlooked is the Gold Experience. If you're a massive Prince fan, you probably know why that is, but allow me a couple of seconds to talk to the people who are not massive Prince fans and explain to them why they have not seen a reissue of the Gold Experience. One of Prince's biggest hits, probably his biggest hit in the 90s, is found on this record. It's a beautiful song called The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. Unfortunately, that song is tied up in litigation. It is the one and only time that Prince has ever had any sort of litigation regarding writing of a song for as creative of a guy as Prince was known as, and massively talented and could write in any genre. That particular song does have an issue where someone else claims that part or all of the main melody behind The Most Beautiful Girl in the World was written and previously released in another country, and the allegation is that Prince heard that, lifted it, and made The Most Beautiful Girl in the World. So if you're Warner Brothers, you're not going to reissue this record without that song. And also, until the litigation settles down, they're not going to be able to reissue the record at all. And actually, for those of you who listen to Prince on streaming now, because that deal came about after he passed away, you may have never noticed this, but if you listen to the Gold Experience on streaming, it does not have The Most Beautiful Girl in the World on the streaming version of that album. Even the prelude track that sets up The Most Beautiful Girl in the World is on streaming, and then the song is just missing from the record, unfortunately. So the only way to get that masterpiece of a track included with this masterpiece of a record is for now to hunt yourself down an original pressing. As far as the packaging goes, again, very plain Jane, very mid-90s ordeal we got going on here. Now, this isn't a knock on the record label for this. This is very, very similar to what happened with the CD for the Gold Experience, just blown up to a 12-inch. So it's not anything that's like I've talked about in a previous video with the poor art direction on some of these pressings. This is just something that the vinyl pressing, this would have had Prince's oversight on it at that time. Actual pressing, again, pretty plain Jane, just kind of a dark inner in there. The only problem I have with it is this light that we're using here today is very good. If you look at this record in any sort of low light, you will have a hard time finding where the actual tracks are that you want to listen to. Me personally, I find this record to be a masterpiece from front to back. So as long as I know which side is 1, 2, 3, or 4, I'm good to set it off and just have the record go front to back. So not too big of a knock on your inners in there. As far as the sleeves that it originally came with, instead of the polyline inner sleeves that I put it in, pretty basic stuff here. You're just looking at your the lyrics, maybe a couple artsy pictures of Prince, a lot of thank yous, and some notes of where his head was at when he wrote this, because if a lot of people don't know, Prince was going through a very, very rough time with his record label in the way that his image and songs were being handled at the time, so there's a lot of insight into that. This is a picture only Prince can get away with, and it's right here in the Gold Experience vinyl. Again, a lot of this stuff is in the CD pressing of it, but it's cool to see it just blown up here to a big size. So wanted to run over that with everybody because I do think that someday that case will get solved and we will see a reissue of this. So it's not something I would encourage you to go out on the secondary market and try and find one of right now. Unfortunately, a lot of these records skyrocketed when we did lose Prince. I do believe this will get reissued one day. For now, my encouragement might be to go out and seek out some records you haven't heard that have been reissued. Around the World in a Day, Parade, maybe some of the later 90s stuff, One Night Alone, Emancipation even. Seek out that stuff that you can find at the record store now for $20 or $30 that maybe was never even available before, or has been reissued recently, and now you can get a pristine brand new copy for a reasonable price, and really treat yourself to some of that Prince material that you haven't heard while you wait around for the Gold Experience. So that's a little bit about this record. Do not forget to subscribe to the Infectious Groove podcast. Do not forget to like this video. Please, by all means, leave a comment if you want to hear me talk more about Prince, Michael Jackson, Guns N' Roses, any of the other artists you've heard, or maybe even seen down here, and you want to hear a little chat about any of that stuff. By all means, interact with us and let us know. Fantastic pressing, fantastic album, Prince, The Gold Experience.